of College Park. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. We have a full quorum with all council members present, council members Clay, Taylor, Allen, and Gay. So I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:31 p.m. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Allen's got the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chaplain Sparks will be doing our invocation this evening, and that'll be the next item of business.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, executive staff, co-workers, citizens, and constituents. Let us pray. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening as humble as we know how. Lord, we come to you this evening meek and not full of self-pride and self-service, but in the spirit of serving this great municipality and the residents thereof. Lord, we ask that you guide us that we do not have personal agendas, to put them aside, to focus on the needs of the people who are our officials that were elected. Let peace rule where there may be disagreement. Let kindness and professionalism be our guidance on this evening while discussing the business of this city. Lord, even in the midst of this pandemic, help our unbelief. We as your children know that you are still in control in the midst of it all. The divisiveness, let this world, this nation, this state, and this great city be reminded that we are all members of one race, and that is the human race. Bless our leaders this evening as they handle the business affairs and the efficient operation of this great city of College Park. Continue to let College Park be a shining example of diversity and commerce that encompasses and is inclusive of all of its residents. Lord, guide us to be good stewards of the responsibility you have given us all. We will continue to give you all the honor and glory you so rightly deserve. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Item 2 is additions, deletions, amendments, or changes to the agenda. I have one. We need to move the COVID update to the first thing that we handle this evening because we've got Fulton County on the line and the doctor needs to move on to other business. So is there anything else? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman. Was that Councilman Allen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's unanimous. So, all right, let's move to that COVID update. Chief Elmore?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we have Dr. Lynn Paxton, MD, the District Health Director for Fulton County Board of Health, that will be providing the COVID update and give us some information on the COVID vaccine tonight. And Dr. Paxton, I think she's on.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes.
I don't have any slides because this was I'm sorry, this was a last minute request, and it was unclear what you wanted really from me. But I am prepared to talk. I think most of the questions I've been getting recently have been about the COVID vaccine rollout. So I can bring you up to speed a little bit about that. As many of you are aware, the COVID situation is very much sort of out of control, I would say. We are seeing, in the United States, I think today we hit the 400,000 death mark in the United States, and in Fulton County, we're closing in on a total of about 60,000 cumulative cases of COVID. And we're seeing we're averaging now about anywhere from 500 to 700 new cases every day of COVID. Unfortunately, the same populations that have been suffering most from COVID throughout the pandemic are still continuing to be the highest affected. People who are older ages, people who are African American or Hispanic. And so that really hasn't changed, except it's all gotten worse, as was no surprise to those of us who've been giving out warnings for literally months about winter coming and that we could expect, a big increase in the COVID rates. So, though, however much I hate being right about that, it was tempered by the very good news of the approval under an emergency use authorization by the FDA of not one, but 2 highly effective vaccines, the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, both of which actually work on the same principle. They are what we call mRNA vaccines, and they target a particular site on the virus. And so it is not, it's always important to say, this is not a live virus. People ask me all the time, can they get COVID from taking the vaccine? And absolutely not, because this is only a manufactured portion of the regular virus. And so what it is amazingly, it's actually it was kind of a gift, in that I don't think anyone expected that these vaccines would be as highly effective as they are, but they're about 95% effective. And they do have side effects, but they tend to be mild and very short term. So we in Fulton County received our first doses of vaccine around, I think, at least at the Board of Health, we received them around December 17th. I was the first person vaccinated at the Board of Health, and I'm still standing, still doing very well. And we started vaccinating at the Board of Health, and we have since moved on to other groups. Anyone who's interested can see on the Board of Health website what the actual vaccination plan is for Fulton County. It follows very closely the overall vaccination plan for the state of Georgia, in which it will be basically consist of 4 phases. The first phase is divided into, called phase 1, was divided into several tiers. And the original tier 1A, i.e. the people who were to get vaccinated first, were healthcare workers, because we have to protect the people who are protecting us, and then residents and staff of long-term care facilities, because they have by far the highest rate of infections and mortality from that. So we started, immediately on that when we got the vaccine in. And then on New Year's Eve, the governor announced that he was expanding Tier 1A to all people over the age of 65. So that, obviously, I cannot argue with that, because in terms of who needs it, people over 65 are at higher risk. But it did put an enormous strain on the entire public health system in the state. Unfortunately, we had already been dealing with the fact that the federal response to vaccine distribution had only taken it up to getting it to the states, and there was little to no thought or money given to how would we do that what we call the last mile distribution, in terms of getting it into someone's arms. So all states were left pretty much having to scramble to try and retailor our current scheduling systems and other things to handle this. And because there is a huge need out there and not enough vaccine to meet that need, you probably heard about appointment systems crashing all over the country. And as they have been doing here in Georgia and in Fulton County. So we have been spending a great deal of time, working on fixing those things. I'd call this has been a kind of a rocky start, but we have a very diligent team that has been working to address all these things. We here in Fulton County have three main vaccination sites. We have one in the north at 4700 North Point Parkway. And we have opened another one, which is our largest one now, at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And our third one is Aviation Center, which is very it's a nice it's closer to people who actually live in the South, obviously. I think we have really made extreme, really great gains, particularly in comparison to all the other districts. As of today, Fulton County has managed to vaccinate over 17,000 people. And now that compares to the Fulton County Board of Health. I'm sorry, we're not the only vaccinators in town. The major hospital systems have received separate allocations. CVS, Walgreens, they received a separate allocation to do residents of long-term care facilities. But I'm just saying that in comparison to other boards of health, Fulton County is doing a stupendous job in that we have already vaccinated over 17,000 people since December 17th, in comparison to our nearest neighbors, such as DeKalb, which has vaccinated as of today about 8,000 people, and Gwinnett, which has vaccinated about 10,000. So I think we're doing a really good job in that, in terms of getting vaccines into arms. Our holdup, though, is that, as I mentioned, there is not enough vaccine to go around. And there's a huge pent up demand, at least from certain people for this. We are still having, problems with vaccine hesitancy, as we call it. We have a lot of people, particularly in the African-American community, who have a sort of a deep-seated distrust of perhaps the medical system. It's the legacy of Tuskegee and other things. And so we're having to put a big effort into trying to explain the vaccine, to explain the facts that actually there were no shortcuts taken, because a lot of people think that this happens so very quickly. They can't believe that this is actually something they can have confidence in, but they can. And the reasons are simply that the medical research world had already had experience with related coronaviruses that caused diseases called SARS and MERS. And all those diseases kind of died out on their own and didn't need to have this whole, vaccine approach for it, because they kind of almost in a way kind of went away. COVID did not, but we had all the experience with designing vaccines for a similar coronavirus. So they were able to really quickly ramp up. Also, the central government did put like billions of dollars into shortening the time period that vaccine manufacturers usually have to wait to go through the very different stages. So I can attest, to somebody who actually was a researcher at the CDC for over 20 years and also chaired advisory committees to the FDA, all of this was done correctly and totally well. So you can have confidence in the results of these trials. So to get back to the vaccine rollout, so here we are at the point where we are now trying to put more order into our system, trying to make it more fair. And so we are opening up wait lists for people to basically call and put themselves on them. And then we will contact them as vaccine becomes available, and we are able to schedule them for appointments. Now, I could go on, but I don't really have much time, nor do you. So why don't we just open this up for some questions, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Paxton. First of all, we appreciate you being here and giving us this update and sharing it with our residents and the rest of the folks who are watching. Does any of the council members, do any of you have any questions for Dr. Paxton?
Yes, I have one, Doctor.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm Councilman Ambrose Clay. I guess I have a frog in my throat. How long after you get a vaccination would you be able to detect that the body was producing antibodies. In other words, the tests that we're giving tests, for example, in our parking lot on a weekly basis.
Mhm.
I don't know whether they're antigen or antibody tests.
Mhm.
I was assuming they were antibody tests.
Mhm.
How long would it be before you would start seeing antibodies?
Well, okay. One thing is the tests that you're seeing in the parking lot are not antigen antibody tests. I mean, they're not antibody tests. What they are, they're PCR. They're actually looking for parts of the virus. Okay. So the vaccine has no effect on that because, as I mentioned, this is actually not, there is no live virus in there. So it is not going to be detectable on any of the PCR tests that are being done at these testing sites.
Okay.
Antibody tests, yes, are another type of test that we use, not to detect acute infection, but to detect, evidence of past infection. We are not following, for the general population, we're not following, antibody tests on every person who gets it, because that's really not necessary. We don't do that for other diseases. What we do know is that both of these vaccines are 2-dose regimens. And it looks like after the first dose, that tends to confer about 50% efficacy. After about 9 or 10 days, it takes a little while for the body to gear up and start producing after being vaccinated. But after about the first dose, it's about 50% efficacy. And then after the second dose, which is kind of the booster dose, if similar to what we do with measles and mumps and the like, that is when, after the second dose, is when the protection rises to the 95% level that I quoted before.
Thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Dr. Paxton?
No, I just want to say thank you to all your crews that you've got out there, because I know they must be working a lot of long hours, and you have a lot of volunteers. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for your folks out there doing a good job.
I'll be sure to convey that to them. It's nice to, among all the angry emails we get and angry texts and phone calls from people who desperately want an appointment, but we can't give them one because we don't have the vaccine. It's also nice to get we do get lots of compliments on how the actual vaccination process is running. Once you get the vaccine, once you get the appointment, then your experience tends to be pretty smooth. So that's nice to know, and I will convey your compliments on to the staff.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Paxton, I had one question for you. Are there plans to move vaccination sites closer to population areas and sort of start with these 3 and then spread out into communities a little bit more?
Well, yes, that is absolutely our plan. We want to take advantage of the mobile units that we have been using in the past for testing, to go closer to people and communities, and so get out to them. But the thing is, at this point, we are still in that very first phase where we've got a lot of people who want and need to be vaccinated, rather quickly. And our best ways to do that is at these large testing centers. Like, for example, at Mercedes-Benz, we can relatively easily vaccinate 2,000 people in a day, versus with a mobile unit, maybe we can do 200. So it's just a matter of scale. So while we're trying to get through this enormous number of people who want to get vaccinated now, I think we're gonna be primarily concentrating our personnel and our vaccines at these major vaccination sites. Then, we will be moving out into the community.
All right. Anyone else have any other questions? All right. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Dr. Paxton. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Chief Elmore, did you have more to add in the COVID update on a city level?
I did not.
Okay.
Well, as a matter of fact, I do for the city level. For, let's see, 30337, as of yesterday, there are 604 cases of COVID in 30337. And that is an increase from the day before, or either Friday, which there were, if I'm not mistaken, there was 589. So there's an increase in the cases.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. And I think Dr. Baker has something to add on the city level in regard to the COVID update, but why don't we hold off on that until we get through the rest of the agenda that actually comes before the COVID update. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So item 3A is a presentation of the regular session minutes from the January 4th, 2021 meeting.
I'll move to approve that with one correction.
I've got one as well. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Taylor. Councilman Clay?
On packet page 22, line 753, it should be Artie rather than Ellie. And I think I already told Chevelle about that, and I think she's made the change.
All right. I had on lines 489 and 490, I believe it says Congressman Lewis, and I believe it should refer to Congressman Scott. I don't have any other changes. Anyone else? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. That's unanimous. Item 3B, workshop session minutes.
I would approve those as presented.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Unanimous again.
Thank you.
We don't have anything under item 4, so we move to item 5, remarks of citizens. Ms. Moore?
Yes, ma'am. I have 2 citizen remarks. One is from Mr. and Ms. D. Palmer. And I'm going to start my timer. And it reads, I'm a resident of Historic College Park. My address is West Rugby Avenue. My husband and I, along with several neighbors, attend the Zoom meeting held on 12/14 regarding the variance for a new property projected on Rugby Avenue. We voiced no objections for the new property. However, issues of safety and curb appeal are our concerns. We need sidewalks and speed humps at the end of Rugby. Cars speed off Washington Road as a shortcut to Main Street, Woodward Academy, or wherever, with no regard to the speed limit determined for the neighborhood. Most alarming is the simple routine of checking the mailbox or taking a walk on the street. In order to get to the sidewalk before enjoying a walk in the neighborhood can be life-altering and downright risky. Walking facing the traffic should offer some comfort. However, drivers continuously ignore the simple courtesy of respecting pedestrians walking in the street in their neighborhood by speeding recklessly close to the sidewalk while pedestrians are walking. Late night speeding continues well into the late evening. How does SPLOST work for College Park? What grants are available to address our concerns? What do you need from residents to make this a priority? I thank you in advance for your time and considerations in this matter. Feel free to contact me at the number if further action is needed on my part. Respectfully, D. Palmer, 2381 Rugby Avenue. The next comment is from Michael Lindsay, who requested to speak live. So Mr. Hicks, if you see that person in the waiting room, you can let them in.
Okay, I've unmuted that person.
Okay.
Mr. Lindsay, feel free to go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Mayor and Council. Happy New Year to everyone. My question is about the, there was a, there was a audit done earlier last year about the Tracy Wyatt Center. I just wanted to know whatever happened with that. Never heard anything about it. I just want to know what the results were. That's it.
All right. Thank you. We don't respond directly to public comment, but we will, there's opportunity at the end for us to have remarks of mayor and council, and I'm happy to address that at that point. All right. Ms. Moore, no one else?
No one else signed in to speak.
Okay, so we have 1 minute for folks who did not sign in. And so if you wish to speak, you can click the raise hand button and you will have 1 minute. Mr. Hicks, is there anyone who wishes to speak?
Yes, Whitney.
Okay.
Whitney, you can unmute and speak now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, sorry if you hear background noise, but that's my son Patrick in the car. My name is Whitney Flemister. I'm at 4195 Williamsburg Drive, and I'm board for planning commissioner. I just wanted to thank Councilman Gay as well as the rest of council members and mayor for continued support on the splash pad initiative, and as well as the job that you all have been doing. In reference to COVID, me being a frontline worker in our community hospitals locally, I can appreciate that. And I do think that the splash pad is something that is going to be of great benefit from a public health standpoint once we kind of get out of COVID. So I just wanted to again thank you all for continued support, and I can appreciate the continued cohesiveness of you all working together and continuing to working together for the betterment of the city as a whole. So just thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak for 1 minute?
Madam Mayor, there's a George Blackstone.
All right.
Mr. Blackstone, you can unmute your mic now.
Is that Ginger Blackstone?
I'm sorry, you're correct, Ginger Blackstone.
Okay.
Okay, unmute. Am I unmuted?
Yes, ma'am, you are. You have 1 minute.
So much, 1 minute. Don't know what happened to the comments I sent, but very quickly, on tonight's agenda is a vote for the final artwork for a mural proposed for the auditorium. Over the last several months, we at the College Park Historical Society and a couple of other people, we have wanted input. I personally have reached out to several different people that should have been able to reconnect with me. I know COVID has put a bummer on it, but College Park Historical Society had no input into this historic building that is sitting in the middle of historic College Park. We had no contact. And I really question that. I don't know if we were dismissed or ignored or forgotten. So, this is not a priority with all the COVID, but it is a priority if we are going to look at the history of College Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
No one else, Madam Mayor, has their hand raised.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. We will move forward. We've got the annual appointment, item 6A, for the city physicians. Dr. Baker, I think this is your purview.
Yes. Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a recommendation to accept the city physicians for the 2000-2001 plan year, and they are listed in your packets.
Now, Dwight, these are the same panel that we had last year, if I read the packet correctly. Is that correct?
You are correct, sir. Yes.
No.
All right. Does anyone have any questions?
I'll move to approve if there are no questions.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Item 7A, Ms. Moore, anything? Any questions for Ms. Moore?
None.
All right. and items 7B and 7C. That's Ms. Fullord Bradley. Any questions for her?
I just have, last week, I thought we were going to give a list of the delinquent customers. You know, I know we do it for the property tax, and I know we got one in the mail, but are we going to publish a list of the folks as well?
I did not think that was the plan, that we were going to receive that. And we did.
Oh, okay.
That was my understanding
I didn't
based
know
on the
if
conversation.
You know, it was out there before. We used to be able to get it before when I was not on council, and I just didn't know why it's not out there now.
Ms. Fullord Bradley?
I mean, we put a list of the property people out there, so I don't know why we wouldn't put a list of the utility people out there. I mean, it's just my thought. If somebody needed assistance, you know, we possibly could help out, or somebody else could too.
The direction was to redact the personal information of the customers. If it's the council's direction to start publishing those names and accounts, we can do so.
I thought it was effective enough that we got them as a body. I don't know. I'm not sure about the value of putting that out there.
I mean, we do it for the delinquent property tax. I don't know why we don't do it. You know, if we do one, we ought to do the other. That's all I'm thinking.
If I may, that violates the Open Records Act if we put out the account numbers associated with the names.
Okay.
So we cannot put out both.
Well, then a simple answer to that is block out the names of the people now, block out the account numbers and put the names on them. Then that wouldn't violate the protection under the law, would it?
I still believe it would, Councilman Clay.
Can we take this? Wait, why don't we take it back and let the city attorney give us some advice on this, and have Ms. Miller update us.
So we'll follow up tomorrow and get you an update.
Okay.
I might add that I can't find where I got the names prior to this meeting. Prior to the last meeting, yes, but I didn't get the names prior to this meeting.
I thought we did, but
I got mine to this meeting. Yes.
When did you get it, Ken?
Friday.
Yes.
Yep. It was sent Friday at 2:02.
Okay. You'll give me an opportunity to look and see if that is legal, and we'll get with the attorney. Then we'll get back with you with that information.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So let's. If there isn't anything to add on item 7B and 7C, and hearing nothing, I'm going to move on to the second half of the COVID-19 update from Dr. Baker.
Yes, ma'am. Again, Mayor and Council, as of last Friday, January 15th, we had a total of 23 cases, 12 confirmed positives, 2 that were exhibiting symptoms, 8 exposures, and 1 hospitalization for a total of 23 cases as of last Friday.
Does anyone have any questions on that information?
Are these cases in the city, like city workers?
These are city employees, yes, sir.
Okay.
Do we know what area? Are they in the city hall, or are they in one particular area over?
Yes, sir. They're spread about. They're kind of all around: police, recreation, fire, public works, customer service, airport affairs, recreation. Those are where the most of the cases are. I can get you the report if you like, or get it to Mercedes and she can forward it on.
No, I was just wondering about, you know, City Hall and you know, how things were going in City Hall, because you hear cases are going up and up, and you know, I just want us to be on top of anything that happens.
Councilman Allen, usually when we find a case, we have them to go in and sanitize those areas. So we've been keeping up with where the cases are. Public Works, they sanitize their area over in the water department. So every time there's an issue, we try to go in behind them.
Good. I just want to make sure we're staying on top of, you know.
I
I'd also like to add that there is a,
I'm sorry, there were two people talking at once.
Sorry.
All right. Dr. Baber, what do you want to add?
I just want to add that there is a mandatory COVID-19 update for employees tomorrow at the GICC, 11 o'clock, 1 p.m., and 3 p.m.
Okay. Councilman Clay?
I just said I got my answer from right before the meeting, so I'm good.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Dr. Baker or Ms. Miller? All right. Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Pleasure.
All right. Item 7E is a College Park Utility Assistance Grant Program update. Ms. Lord Bradley, is this yours?
Yes, ma'am. The agenda item provides an update on where we are to date with the Utility Assistance Grant Program. And just as a quick overview, we have approved 80 applications as of January 11th. Total grant amount awarded as of January 11th is $90,502.88. We have about 211 pending applications. And with the pending applications, we contacted everyone has been in contact. We contacted everyone that has applied. We're still waiting on a number of applicants to provide supporting documentation in order to move it forward for review. What we did, we were successful in last week was during the disconnection period, we did issue additional applications so that those customers could have their services restored. And we were able to approve about 8 additional customers last week. And we will be disconnecting as well tomorrow, and we will have those applications available for those that do qualify to have their services restored as well. And just another update on when our contract actually ends. We did find that in our contract, the grant will end as of December 31st, 2021. The first phase ends February 15th, 2021, but the actual grant doesn't expire until December 31st, 2021. So we do have additional time to get $500,000 spent. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
This is not available to employees who live in the city and get the money back on their utilities. That's correct?
Correct, sir. They are not eligible.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward. Thank you, Ms. Lord Bradley. We do not have any public hearings this evening, so we're moving on to item 9A, which is consideration of an action on a request for approval of the replacement of 2 400-ton chillers at the FAA regional headquarters. Ms. Miller.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have Ron Wilkerson. He should be in the room as well. Back in November of 2019, the council approved doing an engineer study on the chillers that were at the FAA building, and it was determined that they needed to be replaced. I don't think that study was ever brought back to Mayor and Council, where those chillers are in dire need now and we have to replace them. They're even afraid to drill on them because they may fall apart. So what we would like to do, we have talked to GSA and we have asked them to push a lot of their projects back a year so that we can focus on these chillers. Right now, the FAA has about $1.5 million in reserve, and we would take $706,551 out of reserve to replace these chillers, and they would have money left. And we always have to remember that each year we transfer in about $1 million into the general fund from the FAA. So we're seeking approval to get these chillers replaced.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Yes, Councilman Clay.
Mercedes, you answered one of the questions that I had was that it sounded like we've been able to push out the amount of money that we've been able to push out into the next fiscal year is almost as big as the amount of money that we're going to be spending on the chillers. So not only do we have the reserve of 1.5 million, which we're taking away from, and getting another million in the next fiscal year, but we'll also be moving 740 or whatever it was into the next fiscal year. So
Exactly, to get the other budget.
and you also gave me the figures on what it would be to bail us out if one of those units failed. And I guess we could run that way with 2 spare units, 2 temporary units for 2 years, and then we'd equal the same cost as if we'd bought the chillers. And if the chillers are going to be good for another 20 or 29 years, possibly, well, the fact that they made it 29 is a minor miracle, probably. So I think it's a good investment. I think it makes sense.
Yes.
And I'll move to approve it if nobody else has any concerns.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. I don't
All right. Okay. Is there any other discussion? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item 9B. Thank you. Item 9B is consideration of an action on a request for approval of the acceptance of Community Development Block Grant Reprogram funds from Fulton County Department of Community Development for the construction, rehabilitation, and installation of the Charles E. Phillips Senior Park Splash Pad in the amount of $584,000.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hello.
Hi, how's everybody this evening?
Doing well.
I'm happy to be here. This is reallocated funds from the Kathleen Mitchell to go for the CDBG for the splash pad. So I'm bringing the contract to y'all for approval for us to sign and move forward for the splash pad.
What would our portion be?
There is no match for this grant.
We would be responsible for the operation of it, but not the installation. It's my understanding.
I have some,
typically there's a match for grant.
I have
Councilman Clay. Sorry, go ahead.
So there, in this particular case, we've absolutely positively verified that there is no match required, correct?
Correct. That was the question you had for me this weekend, correct?
Right. Okay. Now, I have some other related questions that are probably coming awfully late in the process. And that is, do we know, have we actually planned out the usage of the splash pad? For example, some things that I've read on the internet and what have you indicate that these places are, many of them charge a fee. Is it our plan to charge a fee?
Well, so my plan would be running it very similar to the pools, to have somebody up there to take, that would be my plan. Now, you know, with COVID and moving forward, I'm not sure what that plan would be as far as staffing, just in this situation with COVID. But typically, most people are charging between $1 to $3. And that typically makes up for the percentage that it would take to run the splash pad. And I'm hearing between 3 to 4, depending on how long we keep that splash pad open. Looking at the typical season that we do for the pools, that's typically Labor Day, Memorial Day to Labor Day, same kind of season that we would do for the pools. So we would look at staffing, or, you know, not necessarily a lifeguard staffing, but somebody if we wanted to take revenue up there to kind of offset those costs.
Okay, so that means the splash pad is going to be fenced.
That was the plan when we originally talked about, was to fence the area.
Okay, and another thing I saw is that other communities have mentioned that it's a good idea to have some seating, some shaded seating around the splash pad so that the parents can watch their children. Is that in the cost of the splash pad as well?
So that would be part of that planning the shade area. We can use that as part of that funding, from my understanding. So we can do what we need to do. And those were some of the things that I read too. Some pros and cons was definitely for the parents to have seating. That was something we did talk about. We talked about a small area covered for picnicking. You know, so again, that will be all up to what our requirements are for putting out for the bid.
Well, I guess where I'm going is we got a fixed amount of money coming, correct?
Correct.
This approval is to approve something presumably not to exceed that amount of money.
Correct.
So have we done enough planning to know that we can get all these things in that we might want for that amount of money? For example, one of the things I read was that some of the splash pads, they move in and out some of the features. I guess they must plug in to the splash pad somehow. So if we're going to do that, well, does our plan include the extra, I don't know, the whirligig feature or whatever you want to call it, or the slide feature or so forth?
So our pool has, you know, what the pool up at the Conley Center does have a splash feature. Those are fixed features, and I have read, just like you have, make it easy to exchange into, we would be looking at a fixed scenario, and that would be something, you know, changing out and fixing anything that would be.
Okay, I guess where I'm coming from, if we don't have to pay extra money for this, I think this is a great amenity for the community. I know Councilman Gay has been working his tail off for about a year or so, maybe longer, to get this. And it's a great amenity for the community. I also see it potentially in light of some other projects that can't go into that might be going in that area, that it could be an amenity that synergistically would benefit those projects and vice versa. They might benefit the splash pad. So I just don't want any surprises. We're on a very tight budget. I don't want to pay a penny more than what we're approving that we're going to receive from the county. And I just want to make that clear. So I don't have a problem approving this.
The question I have is, you're going to take in enough money to pay for the running of it every year? So I'm like, I don't think we can spend any money.
So cost-wise, and Councilman Clay and I discussed that, the cost-wise that you guys were given includes maintenance and normal part cost if we needed to replace. So, because typically it's about 10% less than a pool cost. And I know our two pools, our average budget is $70,000, about $35,000 per pool. And then you're looking at 10%. So $3,500 to $4,000 to run it. And if we can recoup that cost, if we decide to do birthday parties or some programming that could do, I think that would be beneficial. With not being as such a big cost compared to a pool, to have an amenity that would be offered at, you know, at
the fence would not cost us anything at all. We would
put that in part of the grant scenario. If we needed to do a smaller splash pad in order to do that, that's some of those amenities we would look at for the RFP to put out.
So one of the concerns I had was, like I say, I just don't want any surprises. So we've had some incidents of significant vandalism at the restrooms in Phillips Park. I don't know whether we've gotten that under control in recent months, but I'm not going to go into the gory details again. I think I brought it up at previous council meeting, but it was very unpleasant. So this pool needs to be, or this splash pad needs to be totally secure. The fence needs to be secure. The gate needs to be locked when it's not operating. Whether we need any kind of, we probably need a camera there, just like we had to put on the Hawks court to make sure that it was secure, because we had an issue with the Hawks court on College Street. So where I'm going is, we presumably have a number for what it's going to cost to bring the splash pad in. Hopefully that number is not equal to the amount of the grant, because then there's no room for the fence, no room for the camera, no room for the shaded area for the parents to sit, etc. No room for the shed to store the water features if we move them in and out, kind of thing. So is all that going to be covered? Your commitment is that it's all going to get covered under the amount of the grant. Is that correct?
Our commitment would be what we want to put out there for RFP to meet that,
okay.
that grant.
And
Councilman Clay, it will come back before council. What we're doing is approving getting the monies, and then we have to do a notice to proceed for the engineer to design it. We put out an RFP, and then we bring it back to you all, so you're able to see everything that's within that amount.
Okay, so my question to you, interim city manager, I like that title, is if it comes back and the costs are more than the grant, I'm not going to vote to approve it.
No.
And so something's going to have to be pared out of there. And it better not be the fence, the shaded area, the security that I think are going to be needed to make it viable.
And we get the grant money before we start paying the.
No,
we
sir.
do not.
We pay up front?
We do pay up
Yes,
front.
sir.
We are reimbursed. We do not get the money up front.
How long does it take to get the money back?
Ms. Floyd Bradley?
It's fairly quickly when we submit the reimbursement request to Fulton County. We normally get it back fairly quickly once we submit the reimbursement.
Within a month?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Althea.
We get it back fairly quickly after we submit the reimbursement request to the county. We would, if we submitted the request, we would probably get it back within a month's time or even sooner.
Okay.
That's what I'm used to with Fulton County.
All right.
Where are we going to get the money from? Well, I was going to say, where are we going to take it out to? Have we got the money to take it out and pay that and then get it back? I'm sure.
Ms. Floyd Bradley?
Yes, we have enough funding in our account to pay it out and be reimbursed. Yes, we do. As of right now, but I will give an update on, I guess, when it comes back before council for approval, because we're not, go ahead.
I'm sorry, how long does the construction take, Michelle?
They said within 2 to 3 months, fairly quickly.
Okay, so if
But we'll
and the
have to do
the RFP and the RFP is going to take a couple weeks,
Correct.
and then
And
the
we-
engineering study.
Environmental study's already been done. That's been done. So we've been presented a contract to sign. So once we sign the contract, and approve to go ahead and move forward to do the design and then do RFP, it would be a couple weeks to a month for that. And then they said it's fairly quick to build.
And we can request those funds during phases of the construction. We don't have to wait till the end of the construction. So during the construction, we can request the funds.
Good.
As we spend the money, yes.
So we won't have a cash flow problem. Or much of a cash flow problem. That sounds good.
Any other questions?
I think this is a great idea. I think personally, right now, we don't have the money to get this done. But I do think it's a great idea. I'm in support of it. I think we got to really check the money because I don't think we have enough money to do this right now. That's what I think.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for all of their hard work. Ms. Johnson, the staff, the mayor for her original letter of support, Fulton County and the Board of Commissioners who voted for this reallocation of funds. I did hear that the Fulton County Community Development Block Grant will already, after tonight, start processing our monies back to the city. So I'm very confident that we can meet and exceed all of the councilman's concerns. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the Community Development Block Grant.
Is there a second?
Contract.
All right. Any other Discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I vote no.
All right. So that is 3 in favor. Council members Clay, Gay, and Allen. And Councilman Taylor is opposed. The motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
That's just to get it back to us.
That is me signing the contract saying that we accept the money, that we accept the money for this project. Not all of the money at once, as I said, it's reimbursed,
right.
Yes.
But we still have the option for final approval of the actual construction on the project.
Absolutely.
Which it will stay within the amount of the grant.
It will not cost us a penny.
Or it won't get my vote.
Understood. Thank you. Item 9C, consideration of an action on a request for a notice to proceed with the professional services of MetroCorp Developmental Enterprises, Inc. for the splash pad project at Charles E. Phillips Senior Park.
I move to approve.
Second.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Councilman Gay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. And that was unanimous. Item 9. I'm sorry,
Madam Mayor. Who was the motion? I'm sorry. I heard two and I didn't.
No, Councilman Gay seconded. I believe Councilman Clay was the one who made the motion.
Okay. Thank you.
That's
the
way I heard.
No-brainer after you made the previous approval.
All right. Item 9D is consideration of an action on a request for approval of city planner services to supplement the services of the ARC's update of the City of College Park's comprehensive plan. Ms. Miller?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, the comprehensive plan has to be updated every 5 years, and this is our year to update it. ARC is doing a lot of the work. However, we still have work to do, and we're doing a budget adjustment and would like approval for $34,000 to have our planner to perform these duties.
Any questions?
We have a spot where we can pull that money from so it won't cost us anything.
Yes, sir.
Where is that going to be coming from? Do you know?
It came from money that we had, I think, in marketing.
Okay.
Yes,
any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fuller Bradley, for that clarification. All right. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 10A, consideration of an action on a request for approval to amend the resolution governing rules of order and procedures for citizen remarks during city council meetings. Ms. Moore, I know that you had an opportunity to update this.
Yes, we brought it back because we had 2 changes. One change was to exclude the amount of people that can leave a comment that did not sign in. Before we had 5 as the limit, and now we have no limit. The other change was to, I'm sorry.
I think it was updating P comment.
Yeah.
So that
it could be used year round. So the email address pcomment@collegeparkga will still be in place once we go back to in-person meetings. So individuals that would like to submit comments still that way, they are allowed to do so.
I move to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Discussion?
Yes, sir. Go for it.
At one time, I thought that we had basically 3 limits in place. Without getting into all the legalese of the wording, we had 3 limits in place. One was 30 minutes for the meeting. One was 9 minutes for one speaker. And the third was 9 minutes for one topic. Is it everybody's understanding that that's still what's supposed to be in here?
Yes, sir.
Is the 30 minutes in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so if that's the case, then on packet page 187, item number 12. If any time remains within the citizen remarks portion of the regular meeting, members of the public who wish to speak will be allowed to speak upon recognition by the city clerk. So if they're recognized to speak, are they recognized to speak for more than 3 minutes or 1 minute? And does the 9-minute regulation still hold either for topic or person?
I think those, it was my understanding that the overarching limits still held, and that if someone hadn't signed up and they still wish to speak and there was time within those overarching limits, that they would have 1 minute to speak.
Okay, does everybody feel that's clear from these regulations? I guess that's where my point is.
That's what I understand.
Okay.
Do you think there needs to be some language that's changed to reflect that?
Yeah, I did. I suggested it to Shavela. I'll tell you what I said, where it says in item 12, allowed to speak upon, I would substitute speak for no more than 1 minute upon recognition by the city clerk. And then on item 13, where it said, however, in no event shall the total duration of time allotted to one speaker exceed 9 minutes. I'm suggesting it says allotted to one speaker or one topic exceed 9 minutes.
Does anyone have any objections to those amendments?
I don't have any objections.
Okay, Councilman Allen, you made the motion. Are you willing to accept those as friendly amendments?
Yes.
All right. And who made the second? Was it Councilman Taylor?
Yes.
You're still willing to second with those friendly amendments?
Yes. What did we say about the 1 minute? That's the part I didn't hear what you said about the 1 minute.
That in item 12, the language would reflect that someone who if any time remained, members of the public who wish to speak would be allowed to speak for 1 minute upon recognition by the city clerk. And then, that's if they haven't signed up. If they've signed up, they've got 3 minutes.
I thought the last time we talked about it, we went away from the 1 minute period. I'm not clear. I thought we went away from 1 minute.
It was, I think Councilman Allen's objections 2 weeks ago were to limiting the number of people who could speak for 1 minute. And so that's been removed. But if you haven't signed up prior to the meeting, you have an opportunity to speak for 1 minute. But if you sign up before the meeting, you get the full 3.
Yeah, I say.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor with the friendly amendments?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 11A, consideration of renewal of the 2022 to 2027 Fulton County Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, T-SPLOST, and recommendation on the use of the funds. Is this Ms. Miller or Mr. Myers? Or both? I'm sorry, you were muted for part of that response.
That would be Mr. Myers.
Okay, Mr. Myers.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. So we're in the midst of, as we said, the new infrastructure campaign, which we're looking to invest. We want to be able to have projects we can invest in the roadway, sidewalk, water, sewer, stormwater upgrades within our municipality and also within 6 West. So we're looking tonight to support another round of T-Splosh when it becomes available. Everything, but we're not supporting transportation. Like MARTA transportation.
So Jackson, what you're saying is that the T-Splosh would stay at the same amount that it is now, which is 0.75%. And we would not increase it to 1% in order that we could siphon off 0.25% for overall transportation.
That's correct. So we're going to keep it the same.
Keep the amount of the tax the same, and don't take anything away from the local community expenditures that are covered by it now.
That's correct.
Okay.
Let me provide a little bit of context for this conversation. Basically, 60% of the population of the cities in Fulton County have to agree that T-Splosh goes on the ballot for a vote this fall. So every city council is having this discussion before the end of the month. And Fulton County has provided us with 3 options: 3A, 3B, and 3C. 3A would be the status quo, that the vote would be for maintaining, as Mr. Myers discussed. 3B would be maintaining that 0.75 of a penny, but having some of that come off for transportation. And 3C is the increase to 1 penny with the transportation coming off as well. And so the city of South Fulton went for 3C. I know East Point is discussing it tonight. There's been consensus amongst the cities of South Fulton that we want T-Splosh to continue. That is not necessarily the uniform opinion on the north side. In the meeting that we had, the mayor's meeting that we had with the Fulton County Commission on, I believe it was the 8th, we had this discussion, and at least there were a number of folks from the north side who said that obviously they have to take it to their councils, but that their thought was that the maintaining the status quo was probably what was going to be able to be palatable on their end, if anything at all. Certainly, from the MARTA perspective, they're, with the new administration coming in, they see a lot of opportunity for federal matching funds for some of these transportation projects that have been proposed, and all of that is, and we will see that our congressional delegation will probably have be more at the forefront of some of those things happening. So it's a decision that we have to make, and I'll take it back to the Fulton County Commissioners at our next meeting, because we're meeting the first Friday of every month as mayors of the cities of South of Fulton County. But I think ultimately, not having T-Splosh is not what we want. I think if the option is no T-Splosh or maintaining the status quo, then I think that maintaining the status quo is where we need to be. I think there's probably some concerns about a tax increase in the environment in which we live right now. So item 3C is, it's the way that South Fulton went. I don't know how many other cities are going to take that approach. And 3B requires us to essentially, if we take money out of what we're doing for some regional projects that could be on the horizon, including BRT on South Fulton Parkway, which I know that we've talked about before as one of the things that they were discussing. But anyway, that's my, I don't know, that felt like more than 2 cents. But just wanted to give you a little bit of context about where the conversation has been on the county level and the conversations that the mayors have had.
Just remember, Mayor, Mayor Council, where this money's coming from is from sales. Yeah, business sales, gasoline sales, Dairy Queen, you go to Dairy Queen, it comes out of the sales. And when you buy a hamburger or hot dog, just to make that clear, it doesn't go to the constituents. We're hoping to get our funding from traveling people, transit people.
Mr. Myers, can you talk a little bit, just briefly, about what we've done with this? Because this is sort of T-Splosh 1. We're in the midst of T-Splosh 1 right now. It's phasing out now. But can you talk a little bit about what's happened in the last 5 years with this money?
The last 5 years we've been working, we've done some quick response with the Main Street by redoing some of the sidewalks along Main Street. We've also used the money to help with the Road Street and the Camp Creek to be able to lower the jet fuel lines without getting it out of our coffers. We've done some design work on that. The intersection down there, the traffic light intersection. It's just, this money is great. We've earmarked some of this money, or I call it earmarked, but we've come up with College Street. We wanted to talk about doing a bicycle trail down College Street, which we haven't done. And then Virginia Avenue, they wanted to put a bike lane in Virginia Avenue. It's pretty narrow there, but I would rather not talk about specific projects in the next go around. I would like to have more of an open end of a quick response. We do have quick response money that we've utilized. And I feel that instead of having a specific that we could, it depends on the needs of the city. If we had a sewer pipe bust somewhere, that we could use that money to go fix the sewer pipe, the sanitary sewer, or for any type of infrastructure, storm pipe. We want to be able to move this money for the needs of the city as the next 5 years progress.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Okay, so what I need from the body is what I take back. Are we supporting 3A, 3B, or 3C?
I move that we go with the staff recommendation, which I believe was 3A. Is that correct? That to be specific, that's maintain the status quo. No money taken out of the 0.75, and we have a 0.75 tax.
Right.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that sounded like 4 ayes to me. Thank you, gentlemen. That was unanimous. 11B is consideration of an action on a request for approval of fiscal year 2020-2021 budget adjustments.
The mayor and council again. The budget amendment amends the budget for the general fund, hospitality fund, the tax.
Ms. Fullord Bradley, it kind of sounds like you're underwater a little bit. You're very distant.
What about now? Because I have a headset on.
It's very echoey.
Yeah, I can barely understand you.
Try something.
Your voice is warbling. I don't know whether you have a bad mic, a bad computer, or a bad connection.
Oop, that's better. I believe so. Can you say a couple more things? Ms. Fullord Bradley?
Or no connection.
Ms. Fullord Bradley?
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Not much.
Not much, but let's do what we can. We're all doing the best we can.
Okay, sorry about that. The budget amendment amends the budget for the general fund, hospitality fund, the tax allocation district fund, car rental tax fund, the power fund, the FAA fund, and the vital fund. The amendment recognizes budget savings presented during our first quarter financial review with our financial advisor. As well, it also recognizes COVID relief funds received from Fulton and Clayton County to reimburse the city for PPE costs and personnel costs. Other appropriations are related to funding needed to move forward with items previously approved by the council and those items which are in excess of appropriation. Total overall increase to the budget is $2,091,276, which brings the total 2020-2021 amended budget to $133,815,150. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have, Mayor. Since I couldn't hear too well, let me just say this. These you can all you have to do is answer yes or no.
Okay.
Are these in agreement with what we approved at the last minute insofar as the guidance that we talked with Ed Wall and you about the whole project, and we gave some philosophical agreements to where the changes should be made? Is this in agreement with that?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. Next question. I heard you say that it also takes into account some funding that we've gotten through the CARES Act or other COVID-19 revenue help with our revenue.
Correct.
So have we been able, as a result of that, to reduce some of the decrements from the budget, some of the things we'd have to take away from the budget because we got this other amount in, or are we ending up about where we thought we were going to end up with?
Because we spent the funds, we are being reimbursed for costs we may not have incurred if it wasn't for COVID. So to answer that, no, it doesn't give us additional revenue because we spent those funds as far as hazardous pay.
Okay, so in other words, COVID didn't make things worse because it was offset by this money coming in, at least not in these, with regard to the changes in this budget.
Correct. It's not as bad as it could have been.
Okay, I'm good.
I had my questions answered this afternoon. Thank you very much, Althea, and I think you all have done a very good job on this, so I appreciate the work you've put in.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to add to that it's a very good, difficult job for staff and all of us, and it's difficult for the citizens. And I think we've all worked together on it, and I'm proud of us. I'm proud of the staff. Good work.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I'll move to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 11C, consideration of a mural design for the wall facing Main Street on the front of the College Park Auditorium building.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item before you has been a process. We started in 2019, and what you have before you is the image that the committee has come together with to align up with the goal or the purpose of this project, which was to promote community unity in the city of College Park and historic Main Street through the arts and culture, remembering our heritage, encouraging our future economic development, and inspiring a modern global perspective. And the committee wanted to do that using color and vibrancy, as well as highlight some of the aspects of things that happen inside of the auditorium. And that's what we've come together with as a proposal that you have before you tonight to move forward with the painting on the face of the auditorium.
All right. Any questions?
Yes.
All right, Councilman Clay.
Now, I just wanted to say that in line with Ms. Blackstone's remarks earlier and Ms. Coakley's comment about that it takes account of heritage, I have to say I'm disappointed that the commentary from the Historical Society was not factored into this.
If I could respond to that, when this committee was created back early 2019, the Historical Society was contacted on several times to request a member. And then also one of the members that is on the committee, to my understanding, is on the Historical Society. I have that name if you like that. And anytime that we had questions, she would go back and research the answers for those questions. So I do have that. The committee was a very large committee. It was very inclusive. We had several artists. We, like I said, to my knowledge, the member from the Historical Society, we had Main Street Board members, we had city staff. So we did try to include all of the players at the table for this project. And to Ms. Blackstone's comment, we just recently had a rekindle event where we were raising additional funds for this mural. And I was personally handed a check from the commentator earlier towards this project. So I was very shocked to hear that comment.
Okay, well, I appreciate the clarifications.
Yes.
I have a question. You know, this, it's only, you're asking for $3,000. Is that what you're asking for?
Correct. The remaining balance is, so initially there were 2 grants that the city received. And at that time, COVID was not a factor, and it was for 2 separate projects. So then COVID hit, and this kind of came to a screeching halt. And at the time, City Manager Terrence Moore decided that if we were to move forward with this, since it was approved by Mayor and Council, that he gave me the approval to move forward, but he said we would need to combine the 2 grants, one to make the mural on the auditorium larger, and then it would just be one payment versus trying to maneuver 2 different projects. So that's why we focus solely on this. And when the world gets a little better, we're gonna focus on doing the mural down at the entrance of Main Street.
I guess where I'm going, we're talking about, $3,000, and I was wondering if there's a way that we can take some of this money out of our discretionary money or find other way to come up with the money. 3,000 is 3,000,
I'll be honest. I think this would be great on that wall.
Thank you.
No, not the rec center. No, I'm sorry. Not the auditorium.
Okay.
Not the auditorium. I think on the wall on Main Street. I think it would be so impactful there.
So that wall, so the 2 grants put together would make this mural 10 by 40 feet. And so that essentially will fill the center section of the auditorium in between the 2 stair entrances. That wall down by Enterprise is way more than 40 feet. So if we wanted to get a large splash on that wall, although this would be beautiful and it would not encompass that entire wall at all. So we would have still a lot of dead space, so to speak, on that wall.
Understood. Any other questions?
I tend to agree. I think it would look great if it was longer and down that wall as people come in.
Yeah, I think it would really just be such a...
Me too, but...
We have some great ideas for that wall. And in the future, once funding, I'm looking for grants and opportunities to put in place because it will cost a lot of money to cover that entire wall or a large portion of it. So I have some ideas that I was going to present for that, but it is definitely at the discretion of Mayor and Council.
I'd like to
Is there any urgency in doing this? In other words, if we were to wait and somehow accumulate more money so that we could do it on the wall coming into the city, Does that make any sense?
You know what the price difference is?
I do not. I know that, so let's see. The paperwork that, I had the numbers blacked out now, but I'm trying to see what his costs were initially for, of course, it was the 12,000 for the 40 feet. So that wall has to be at least, I don't even know how many square feet it would be. So it will be several $1,000s. Well over, I would say close to $20,000 at least.
The auditorium to me is, I mean, it's white. It's, you know, it's not in terms of just looking at it, it's not in terrible shape, right? I mean, it's not like there's white paint peeling and it's like in a horrible state of disrepair. That wall though is I feel like it is the gateway to the city from that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I agree. You could have some bicycles on there. You could have College Park. It could be very.
Okay, Mayor and Council, can we find out the price for doing that wall, that same image, and come back to you?
I think that works. Is that okay?
Yeah. Just a note, it's in order for him to do this image on that wall, it would be the same amount. It would still be the same 10 by 40 feet. I mean, essentially, we could move this mural to that wall. We could, and then actually have him center it or offset it and maybe do something else, you know, on the left or the right of it. You know, that is at the discretion of mayor and council. When I was researching for these grants, I did get prior approval from the car rental place that is on the other side of that wall. So I would have to go back in my notes and pull that out and reapproach them, because once we had an image that we wanted to put on that wall, they wanted to approve it themselves as well. But so essentially we could have this mural done on that wall, but keep in mind that it would be 40 feet and then whatever is left would be space.
Well, I mean, couldn't we put a complementary color as sort of a background and then it's 10 by 40?
Probably could. I'm sure it would be an additional cost because that's outside of the realm of the grant that he wrote.
Understood. But I can get a roller and some paint. I'm not that good, but you know, I'm sure that there's a lot of people who would be willing to support a project like that. But why don't we find out what it would cost?
Okay.
And go from there and take it up. And is 2 weeks enough time?
That is, yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just from a technical standpoint, will that, if you were to make that existing image that was planned for the auditorium,
yes,
if you were to make it longer and yet keep the same proportions, you would also have to make it higher. Do you have any idea, or could you look into how you would enlarge that image? In other words, you make it longer, but you also make it higher. Is the wall tall enough that you could fit that image in or not?
It's definitely it's tall enough, definitely.
So you could, it's like taking an image on your screen on your computer, you know, you can make the window bigger and keep the same ratio between the horizontal and the vertical.
We just need to go from the corners.
Yeah, right. You grab from the corners and pull it up, right?
Right.
So could you look into that as well?
I definitely will. And just to bring your attention to the images inside the letters were images of things that took place in the auditorium. So essentially we could change those out to use other images of other things, like things around the city per se.
But CO is Main Street.
That is correct. And then the LL was like jazz musicians because we have music there. And then the E and the G was showing diversity in the city. And then the rest of them basically are the sports aspects of the auditorium. So essentially we could go with that, or we could change those images altogether.
But Collie Hawk isn't in the auditorium. And
He's not, we just kind of put
and
that
we don't have
because
planes in the auditorium either. So
that
I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
Hey, I have a suggestion.
yes,
Okay.
Councilman Taylor.
If we're gonna do two different murals, right? Why we do both areas with one mural? Why don't we just stay at the auditorium, what we got going on right now, put more of the citizens involved on the bigger one that we were talking about doing later anyway. I don't understand what we're doing right now.
I think we're putting the mirror at the beginning of the city because it's kind of the gateway into the city as opposed to the auditorium. So they're gonna take the same sign and put it and try to make it bigger and put it as an entrance into the city.
The auditorium doesn't look that bad, and the wall looks pretty bad, and it happens to be the gateway to the city. I think that was the point that the mayor was making.
Yeah, I get that, but what I'm saying is we was first talking about the auditorium, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we just focus on that first? And we get enough people in the community, even stakeholders in the community, maybe they can put in money or different ideas. Like the first lady said, she didn't get an opportunity to be a part of it. I think there's a lot of people ain't gonna get a chance to be a part of it. You're talking about putting on the gateway to the College Park, so to speak. I think that should be a totally different mural, if you ask me, when we talking about putting it down where the rental car place used to be. I think we should wait and focus a little bit better and get something else for that. That's what I think.
All right. So at this point is there a motion to table this for consideration this evening, and we'll bring it up at the next meeting? So we can get a little bit more information.
And that doesn't mean I don't agree with what Councilman Taylor said. I think he's made a good point. But let's think about it for 2 more weeks or whatever it is, about 2 more weeks. And so I'll move to table it for that. You can get, and that would give you an opportunity, Renee, to get some numbers as well.
Okay.
And is there a second on that?
Second.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you. City Attorney's report.
Nothing this evening, Madam Mayor.
All right. Thank you. City Manager's report.
As you all recall, at the last meeting, I was going to have the postmaster at this council meeting. Well, I sent emails. I called the postmaster. I got no call back, no response to an email. So I got in my car and I drove over to the post office and I ran into the postmaster. The postmaster said she had turned it into her regional person and she's waiting to see who will come to the council meeting, whether it would be herself or the regional person. So I explained to her that she had a week, which was this week, and then I was going to go to her regional person. So I'm still working, trying to get in touch with a postmaster that would show up to the council meeting. That's all I have.
Any questions?
Just a comment. In addition to us not getting mail some nights, we had an incident where I found about 50 to 60 pieces of mail in my front yard, kind of back in between the 2 houses. It had been stolen out of the mailboxes, primarily on Lyle and on Connolly. And the reason a lot of that mail, I think, gets stolen is because we don't get mail till sometimes it's been as late as 10:30. Usually it's by 8 or so. And so that's one issue. The other thing is that I'd say at least 1 or 2 mail pieces a week, either we have to deliver to our neighbors ourselves or our neighbors deliver to us. And my understanding is that sorting of the mail isn't happening by our mail carrier. I'm not blaming our mail carriers. This is not a mail carrier problem. This is a system problem. And so I think it's even more fitting that the regional person be the one that shows up, because my understanding is that sorting is going on at the regional level. It isn't going down on Main Street in our carriers area there, or even down on Godby Road. I don't think it's going on down there either.
And you are correct. You are correct. I live in South Fulton and I get my mail at 10 o'clock at night. Some days I don't get mail. They don't pick up mail. Mail has been lost. So I think that it is a corporate problem. But I will show up over at the main post office and I'll find someone.
This might be an opportunity to address our new senatorial representatives, since the Senate is over the post office or funds the post office.
We'll make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Board of Mayor and Council. I'm working backwards today, starting with Ward 4, Councilman Gay.
Good evening, man. Thank you, everybody, for cooperation tonight. Great council meeting. I just had one thing I would like to be thinking about. I got called about a senior who is tax exempt from Fulton County taxes. And I'd like to know, do we have to put this on the upcoming election to consider making our tax exempt citizens? If you're tax exempt from College Park, should you be tax exempt for property tax for College Park? And that's a very small group of people, but it's a significant amount of people who can't afford to pay additional tax.
I believe that would be something that would need to be voted on, but Mr. Denmark, can you enlighten us? All right, we'll get an answer from Mr. Denmark on that one offline.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Councilman Allen?
A couple of things. First of all, my BIDA representative, Aaron Arnold, who's done a great job, is going to be resigning from the BIDA position. And anybody that is interested in being considered for Ward 3 BIDA position, please let me know. kallen@collegeparkga.com. Send me a little bio. I want to make sure I consider everybody that's interested. So please let me know. Second of all, we had a fire on Harvard where we had a lot of apartment folks just completely out of their apartment. It was gutted. They've been displaced. And so we'll be trying to get with the good folks of College Park and seeing what we can do to help these people out the next couple of days. So I'm sure we can put that on the website so we can know how to get in touch with these. We're using a lot of overtime for fire and police. And I think we're kind of close to the budget we were last week, probably over the budget now. But can we take a look at, I don't know if we could hire any part-time people as fire department. Would that be easier, cheaper to do that than to keep on paying overtime and wearing our people out? I didn't know if we could kind of take a look at, that might be a possibility if we could take a look and see what we can do there. Shop local. We got a few new places around College Park, Manchester Arms, Johnny's Chicken and Waffles. There's some places on Godby Road. And please shop local. Your people need it. The restaurants need it. The businesses need it. So please get out and shop local. That's all I have. Stay safe. Remember the guidelines. Wear your mask 6 foot apart. Wash your hands. Yes, they're getting vaccines out there, but we need to stay vigilant and make sure that we get rid of this COVID-19. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Councilman Taylor?
I don't have anything.
All right. Councilman Clay?
Very short. I got my Pfizer first vaccination yesterday at Mercedes-Benz. If you're getting your vaccination there are no signs on the main street that goes by Mercedes-Benz. Just a piece of advice. We were supposed to get instructions after I signed up and got my acknowledgement that my wife and I were both admitted. We were supposed to get instructions where to go. We did not get those instructions that said any differently than go to 1 Amblin Road. Well, bottom line is you want to go to the silver parking lot. So unless they change it, and you happen to be fortunate enough to be going to Mercedes-Benz for your vaccination, go to the silver parking lot. It's painless, better than most shots that I've gotten. As far as wearing masks, even after I get the second shot and presumably I'm 95% immune, from what I've been reading, just because you're 95% immune doesn't mean that you won't actually get it. You may have it. It may live in you, in your sinus cavity, for example, and you can still transmit it possibly. They don't know yet. Their data is out on that. So even after you've had your 2 shots and have developed your immunity, please wear your masks so you do not run the risk of becoming infected asymptomatically and then transmitting it to somebody else. And that's all I had.
All right, thank you. So these are strange times that we're living in. And I think if we've learned anything over the last couple of weeks, it's that words matter. We don't just put words out into the air and not have an impact. So what I want to commit to each one of you and to my colleagues and to the people who are representing this city in one form or fashion or another is that we, with our words, will do you proud. Because we have seen the power and the weight that words carry. And what we do, whether it's on a municipal level, on a state level, on a federal level, impacts you. And how we conduct ourselves, how we work for you matters on a daily basis. And we need to remember that every single day, every hour, every minute, because our democracy is precious and it is fragile. We saw that on January 6th. And if you were like me, you were saddened, deeply saddened by what occurred. And we all need to work to make sure that our democracy is protected and that we recognize the power of our words. So I wanted to take the opportunity to say that because it's just so important how we conduct ourselves, no matter where we are in this community, and recognize that we're all neighbors and that we're all working for the good of the city. In regard to a comment that was made earlier, questioning about the intersection, I believe, of West Rugby and Washington. I believe, Mr. Myers, and I don't want to put you too much on the spot for this. You still there?
Still here.
All right. I think we're going to be trying to work with GDOT. Is that correct? On that intersection?
Yes, I was putting together a letter. I shared it with Mercedes while we went over it. So before I sent it out, I wanted her to review it, send it to her today. But yes, we have, during the month of January, Georgia Department of Transportation has quick response of $199,999.99. I don't know where they came up with that. But anyway, That's it. And even though it's not a state highway, then they have off-road quick response that they can get. So anyway, that was one of the projects that I had requested for them to be able to, they'll design it. We don't have to have, the city doesn't have to have any involvement in it as far as except our city give permission to do it, but they'll come in and redesign that intersection. I got a couple other intersections over there on Main Street where you get off the interstate and come around onto Lee at the FAA. We want to try and redo that intersection right there. Part of our DRI is we've asked them over there on Conley, that comes when you come down from, everybody knows where Moody's Garage and Park and Ride. As you come across there, you know, there's one lane that kind of makes a right turn or a straight. We want them to come in there, and we're asking them to come in and do a quick response there and add additional lane, because that corner property does belong to Georgia Department of Transportation. And those are just a few of the projects we're trying to get them to work on.
All right, appreciate that. So we are working actively on that issue, and I wanted to just let y'all know that was still at the forefront of what we're trying to do. In regard to the audit, you did hear us last year talking about a forensic audit that we were going to try to do citywide. Unfortunately, COVID got in the way. So the forensic audit of the city overall has not happened. But the investigation that came from the rec center was forwarded on to law enforcement. So that's the answer. That I believe someone had a question about that earlier. And thanks to everyone who has tagged me on Facebook, asked me, emailed me, called me about the fire that happened on Harvard. We are, as Councilman Allen said, trying to ascertain exactly what the residents need, but the response from our community thus far has been outstanding and overwhelming. And it just, again, shows how great of a community we've got, because people are standing at the ready, poised to help in any way they can. And we are so appreciative of that because that's what makes our neighborhood great. And lastly, we are a city that requires face masks. So don't forget that when you're out and about, because the numbers are staggering. Over this long weekend, there were almost 17,000 cases of COVID that were diagnosed in the state of Georgia. The numbers keep on going up. We are not through this. I am thrilled to know that one of our lot has gotten part of the vaccine protocol. It's great news, but we're not out of the woods yet. So do all of the things, even though, gosh, it's been a long time, but keep at it. Wear your masks, wash those hands, sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. Keep it up. But because we still have quite a ways to go before we're out of the woods with this. And we want to make sure that everyone is as safe as possible and that we all make it through this together. That is all I have. I think we have some executive session minutes that need to be moved and approved. So is there a motion?
Move to approve the executive session minutes.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. That was unanimous. We have already covered executive session, handled that in the 5 o'clock hour. So the only thing that we need to do is adjourn, and we're doing that at 9:19 p.m. Have a great evening, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Chanel, are you good?
Michael.